So, started this up a minute ago and got interrupted, so now I'm back. Um, and what I wanted to talk about today was a little bit more about narcissism and truth, but this time about truth from the narcissist point of view, because I think last time I didn't really get to that very much. I talked about what truth is, but not the way that perhaps a narcissist and why someone gets called a narcissist. The model that we all have these days is Donald Trump. And when he says things like, his crowd size, his inauguration was the biggest ever, or, they didn't lose the 2020 election, and some of the other things that he says that are just untrue, but yet he asserts their truth value. That is, when we talk about a narcissist and truth, this is what I see. I don't see somebody who has researched the truth diligently and is trying to make a truth claim that can be verified and agreed upon. They are trying to assert the truth against the truth. And, where might I be guilty of that kind of thing if I approach truth like a narcissist? And I think that the place that my therapist was thinking was about my response to a DWI I got in, what was it, 2020? I mean, year 2000 or 1999 or 2001. Anyway, it was right around the turn of the century. I don't know the exact date. I think 2001, honestly, but honestly, I don't really remember. But, the circumstances of that night were that I was at a club in what's called Fat City, which is a part of Metairie, Louisiana, which is a suburb of New Orleans. And it's the place that's got kind of like, strip clubs and that kind of thing. And these strip clubs are not anything special. They're not on the list of even good strip clubs in the area, much less anyone else's. It's just, in fact, one of them I've called before, like the place where strippers go to die. It's just just not that kind of a place. So I was there, and I had obviously been drinking, and I left and got in my car, and I lived at that time maybe 3.5 miles away, something like that. I'm not really sure, but basically just from Fat City down to Veterans Highway, down Veterans Highway to Cleary, Cleary to this little back road, and this little back road would take me about another mile or so down to the road where my apartment complex was, where I lived. So it was a pretty straightforward, easy kind of trip, nothing too complicated, and it was late. There wasn't hardly anybody on the road, and what happened is I got to the light at Veterans and Cleary, and I caught the light at Cleary, and I was waiting to go. And when the light turned green, I floored it, basically, and got up to about maybe 35, 40, I don't know, and then coasted back down to the speed limit, which was 30. But that was enough probable cause for the cop, who was sitting in the Menards parking lot, to put on his lights, follow me, and pull me over and do the drunk test and all that kind of thing. And, I was a bit of a smartass about the test and everything, but I never contested it. I was drunk, and I knew I was drunk. We went to the lockup. They did the whole intake stuff. They put me in the drunk tank, and I called my parents. And about 4 hours later, they came and bailed me out. And and the whole thing eventually took care of itself. And I wound up in court, and got, I don't know exactly what I got. I got some kind of suspended sentence of some kind. It's my first offense and that kind of thing. And I had to go to counseling, both personal counseling, and I had to go to some DWI talk thing. And in my personal counseling, the counselor at first tried to say that I was an alcoholic, and I said, no, I'm not an alcoholic. And I explained circumstances that led me to believe this, that I was not an alcoholic, and he seemed to accept them. But then after the 6 required sessions, he said I needed more because of denial about being an alcoholic. And I was like, no, whether that's true or not, I'm never giving you another penny. I'm going to another counselor for sure. And I left and never came back to him. And I went to my intake counselor, the one who was in charge of the DWI talks, and she accepted the fact that no more counseling is going to be helpful for me, that whatever was going on, it wasn't going to be helpful. But here's the other thing too. Her name was Jenna, and I kept up with her. And actually, I came back to those those DWI classes, and I taught one. I taught people my own experiences of what it was like to get a DWI, okay, and what I learned from the experience. So, you know, when I say that, I'm not an alcoholic, it's not a denial thing, and it's not me flying in the face of reason, because, one of the things you learn in those classes is if you get a DWI, there's a 50% chance that you're an alcoholic. If you get 2, it goes up to 70% or something, and if you get 3, it goes up to almost 100. It's something like that. I don't remember exactly, okay, but it is something like that. And yeah, okay. Before I got my DWI, I did drive drunk. I don't know exactly. I would say probably around 50 times. Mostly, in fact, almost exclusively, driving home. I was not one of these people who got home and drove out for alcohol later, or drank at home and went out to get alcohol somewhere, or drove between one place I was drinking to another place I was drinking. I almost exclusively, in fact, I would say exclusively, drove from whatever bar I was in home. And, okay, and why would I do this? Well, mostly it was because I was the one driving and I had been drinking. I know that sounds simplistic and stupid, but that's kind of it. New Orleans is a big city. The French Quarter is a very small part of it. I did not live anywhere near the French Quarter. If I wanted to go to the poetry reading at the Gold Mine and have a drink or two and go back home, I only had a couple of choices. I could get a taxi both ways. Well, that would have been probably $40, and that was more than I could afford. I could get a friend to drive. Well, that would depend upon having a friend, having phone numbers, and knowing people who could drive, who also were not drinking that night. Well, that wasn't happening. There wasn't anybody of that kind, so you can forget that. I could take public transportation. Well, on the way to the bar, public transportation might be an almost viable option, because I think there was a bus that did run by my house. It would have taken me 2 transfers. It would have taken me probably an hour and a half to get there, but I could have probably done it. But on the way back, there wasn't any public transportation to get anywhere near my house. The closest was a 40-minute walk from someplace on the streetcar line. I could get off at one place and walk through a neighborhood, and that'd be maybe about an hour walk, or I could go to the end of the line and walk straight down Claiborne, and that would have been about a 40-minute walk. At this time, I did not live in Metairie. When I got the DWI, I lived in Metairie, but the time I'm talking about, mostly when I did the drinking and driving, was in New Orleans. Okay, so it wasn't really feasible for me to get home any other way but drive myself. And so then the only issue was the drinking. Well, I mostly didn't drink until I was completely out of my mind or anything. I mostly just had 2, maybe 3 or 4 drinks. I mostly didn't drink that much. I did on maybe 4 to 5 occasions get that drunk and drive. I mean, there was definitely one night where I was blind drunk, like literally could not see where I was going drunk. And I am very, very thankful I didn't hurt anyone or get the DWI that I got that night, because that happened in Orleans Parish, and that would have wound me up in OPP. And, you know, I don't know what I would think about it now, because my view of the world has changed substantially. But at the time, I and everybody I knew was scared to death of OPP, and rightfully so, I think, in terms of their lack of concern for the people who are in it. But I didn't go there. So, my only viable option was not to drink, or to drink and drive. And, obviously I made a poor choice. I chose to drink and drive. But you can see where that's not straight up an alcoholic. That is the necessity of getting home, this necessity of going out and doing the poetry reading, which was important for me at the time. And it happened in a bar, and it's just hard to go to a bar and do a poetry reading when everyone is drinking and not have a drink. Could I do it? Yes. And did I do it? Yes. I mean, I still kept going some of these poetry readings after the DWI, and I did not drink. I also did drive home to Metairie drunk, too, from the bar a couple of times. Like I said, the particular night in question where I got the DWI, I was not coming home from a poetry reading. I was coming home from one of these clubs. I didn't go out to the clubs for the purpose of ogling the women kind of thing. It's a little more complicated than that, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that I should not have been drinking and driving that night. It was wrong, and I accepted the responsibility. I never once debated that. But again, okay, so to get back to narcissist, so my refusal to accept that I'm an alcoholic seems to be the main thing, that I have some alternative explanation. Well, the point of fact is that 50% of the people who get a DWI, there is an alternative explanation. And I believe that I do have an alternative explanation. Can I get carried away with drinking? Yeah, I can. But can I avoid it? Yeah. I've gone 5 years without drinking, without even thinking about it. Now, I have a beer here or there, I have a drink here or there, but not that much, and never more than 3. That is my absolute drop-dead limit. I will not go past 3. And when I'm driving, even less. Anyway, I will probably follow this up with a part 4 dealing with some of these issues again. But I think that is the reason, because something about the way that I talk about this did not ring true to her, that it felt like I was dissembling or lying or something. And I get that, because a lot of people who are in fact alcoholics want to deny that they are. And the only reason why that I say that I'm not is I don't think that I am. I think you can look at my bank account and see the amount of money I spent on alcohol is over time not extravagant. I have my moments here or there, but I am not extravagant. I'm not a regular drinker. I do not miss work. I do not show up to work drunk. I do not drink at work. Alcohol does not affect my relationships. I don't drunk dial people. I don't become belligerent and hit on people and that sort of thing. I have a drink and do my thing. That's about it. So I think that, I think that I'm safe from that charge. But who knows? Who knows? Anyway, next time.